Thank you. Kathy Nolan?
Just quickly, thank you for your testimony today, and I know we have a lot of witnesses yet to go, but I was asked by a number of my colleagues to get your opinion on what Commissioner Elia talked about in teacher evaluations. Are we seeing a level of participation? How do you think her looking at new perspectives for developing teacher evaluations is going, and your perspective on her, what she's doing in test development, and her comments that the tests are diagnostic. So I don't know if you were here for her testimony, but she did reference several times that she's trying to include teachers in everything she does going forward, whether it's evaluations, whether it's test development, and how we use those tests. So I don't know, maybe Andy rather than Michael, but whoever wants to respond. Okay. Did I get it right, Harry? Okay. So some of our colleagues who are not on the committee, we try to ask questions for them because we have a big group here. We're trying to speed it along. So I'm really just helping out here. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Yes, I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that the commissioner has been very open about making sure that teachers are involved in all the different parts of the different processes and discussions that are happening. That is very nice because that's not always what happened. Quite frankly, what would happen is at the end of the process, they would invite teachers to look at what they did and then say thank you. And that is not what is going on at this point. The company that is designing the test that will not start until next year has already reached out to us as well as to NICET and has asked us for a group of our members to talk to them about different development of different questions and how to do this and making sure it's diagnostic, as well as about how to administer a test. Because that's another thing that seems to be finally on the radar about how it's not just the test design, but the administration of the test has a lot to do with how a child will perform. So they've been, this commissioner has been very open about it.
Good, thank you.
And I also want to thank you for your work on the task force, Assemblywoman Nolan and Senator Marcelino. The findings were very helpful to our membership and to our schools throughout the state. And we know it was a lot of work, and we just want to relay the appreciation for what you did.
Well, I got to go to New Rochelle. I had never been, so in my tenure in this committee, the 10 years I've chaired the committee, I've been to an awful lot of parts of the state I had never seen a girl from Queens, so New Rochelle was pretty nice. So yes, we did attend a lot of hearings, Senator Marcelino and I think it was a more collaborative process, and I think you know, we're kind of moving forward, I think, in allaying parents' anxiety about the test and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to NICET and UFT. So happy to have you here today. I know that Senator Marcelino, as chair of the Senate Education Committee, has some questions or comments. So, Senator.
Thank you, Chairman. Gentlemen, lady, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate your patience. It's been a long day. We were supposed to be out here about 3 hours ago.
Oh, come on.
I think we expect it'll take a little bit longer. You may know I was a UFT delegate when I was a teacher, and then when I moved into administration, transferred over to the dark side, became a CSA member.
We always need a good administrator.
Always need a good administrator.
Always.
Amen to that. Never crossed the picket line in my life, never will. This renewal school negotiations, relative for the city, how have the negotiated changes impacted the teachers? Is it working? I mean, is it not working? I know longer days were part of that and other things. Is there an effect that you could point to? Are the teachers reacting in any way, pro or con, on these things?
There's two schools that we did a radical change, Boys and Girls in Automotive High School, and the other 94 schools, it was more of a spending extra time, coming up with a plan, targeting, looking at your data, targeting it, moving it forward. It really is, first, it's a process of trying to help, you know, we came here to teach and they're blaming us for everything. And you have to get through that part of it first, and with the union as well as the Department of Ed, but the union really has invested a lot And we now have a separate department who goes there. We have a retreat this weekend where half of those schools are coming away with us for 2 nights. It is working because you had to create a team approach and get past and let's just be frank about it. You had 15 years in the United States where most people weren't saying nice things about teachers. So this was added on in terms of we chose to work in really difficult situations, and now here they come again. So it was getting past that process was first. We do have an issue, though, with trying to attract teachers into these buildings. That is just factual, and that is really what scares me more than anything else, and where we want now to use the teachers who are in the building, who really understand that this is a process more about our profession and showing folks that the most difficult teaching you can do is probably in a high poverty area. That is the most difficult job a teacher in the United States probably can do. And take that on as a badge of honor and a responsibility. It's more that coming over the psychology of it that has been problematic. In terms of the work, they just, extra hour, we'll figure it out, roll up our sleeves. How do we integrate with a CBO? Great, somebody's here to help. Finally, they're not coming and telling us what to do, they're asking us what we want. That's been a huge change. So we're happy at this point. We're seeing positive movement, but we're going to wait to see exactly what the data shows.
How has the collective, the waivers, relative to the delay, the task force recommended 4 years in the APPR application. And during that time, negotiations are supposed to be occurring between the boards, superintendents, whatever, and the teachers and parents and the like. Is this in fact happening?
Well, we appreciate the waivers, that's for sure, because the main word that we use to describe the evaluation system for the past couple of years has been debacle, disaster. Most of them started with D. So what we have here is the entire state looking to the legislature to make changes. You were able to give that responsibility to the regents. The regents have acted upon that. You have made your recommendations through the task force. I believe that in my conversations today with superintendents and school boards here, there is still a lot of confusion, so they definitely need guidance on what they should be doing for that September 1st deadline.
I can answer that. Yes, we are negotiating, but I also think that there's an opportunity here because of your work on the commission. I think as a state now, the next challenge and the next debate really is, what is authentic student learning? And that's what we should be headed towards, where most people have not. They've said that student learning is a test score or you have nothing. And I think New York State is ready to tackle that. Most people have not been willing to tackle that. But as you know, as an educator, project-based learning, students doing all sorts of different portfolio and consortium work. And I believe New York State is willing now, because we see this political willingness to do this, to move forward on tackling the question of what is real student learning. And we want that as part of teacher evaluation. We all understand the debate on the test scores, and we've been pretty forthcoming about our feelings on it. But what real student learning is, and teacher evaluation is not just about real student learning, it's also about the development of the individual teacher. It's supposed to be a support system. Yet that never enters the conversation. It never enters it. It's all about, well, are you good or are you bad, and what are we doing with bad? And it's supposed to be a development and support system. And also, what is real student learning? And I think we are having those conversations. We've had negotiating sessions on this already in New York City.
Your people and the people who look to you for protection, look to you for guidance, and the like. I've heard back as many of my constituents, and they're not unhappy. They're happy with the way both your unions are being run. I get positive feedback from both sides, from NICET and from my UFT constituents. So you're obviously doing something right. All I can suggest to you is the door's always open. If you need anything or want to talk or want to talk about something, whatever it is, give us a ring. There'll be a positive answer to that, and we'll try to help you out as best we can.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'll take you up on it.
Do that.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman Murray.
Who, me?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming. I'll be quick because it has been a long day, but a little earlier I spoke to Commissioner Elliott was here, and I brought up the issue regarding testing this year and the opt-out movement and those sorts of issues. There's a feeling among parents, and I'll tell you, I've been contacted by some teachers as well, and it's, why are we doing this year when it's not going to count for the evaluations, it's not going to count for the grade scores. Now, the commissioner, and I'm not going to get into evaluating her response, but it was troublesome in that it sounded again like all of the evaluations or all of the assessments for the students come down to this test. And you know, I would think that assessments are ongoing constantly by the teachers who are the professionals. So it still troubles me when the answer was, yeah, we should still be doing the test because of the assessment. I think it's ongoing, so I kind of want to get that off my chest, because as I was having that discussion, I received a message from a teacher who messaged and said, yeah, okay, the evaluations have been delayed a little, but I'm still getting evaluated on local tests, and there's still going to be test-centric evaluations, and that's troublesome. So I wanted to hear your feedback, what you're hearing from your members, because you brought up an excellent point, authentic learning. You know, learning today it's just evolved to a point where it involves so much. It's teaching these kids what happens when they graduate, where do they go from there. We talk about CTE, we talk about whether you're college ready, but there's so many different aspects and branches that they could go off on. What is authentic learning? And that's my concern, and I'm getting the feeling you're hearing the same thing, but I'd like to hear, are you hearing this from your members, that the concern is it's still going to be test-centric?
Well, I agree with your statement, and we are hearing the same thing from our members. So the fear is that this will continue, and I believe that the task force and the regions will undertake to reduce the amount of testing, to shorten testing, and to make it a non-punitive system of testing. This is what has to be done. This has been the outcry from, as you said, the opt-out movement. They have said that this is a ridiculous way to run a school system. They voiced their opinions, and they made them very loud. So we agree with the parents that this should not be what our schools are all about.
In terms, the federal law has now changed, okay? So there is no longer a requirement to use standardized tests in teacher evaluation. The federal law only makes a requirement of giving a standardized test each year for informational purposes only. So the federal government has clearly sent a signal. In terms of teachers, the idea, remember, standardized tests have been here.
Right.
But it's supposed to be a diagnostic.
Right.
And the minute you put any stakes on it, it is no longer a diagnostic. And New York City is a perfect example. The political rhetoric was social promotion need to go away, we need to use tests. So we got rid of social promotion, which was a great little political term. But the fact of the matter is, once we used the test as the only criteria for promotion, more kids were promoted than ever, and less were left back. When you took the discretion away from the teacher to say whether the child is actually ready to move forward. That little fact never gets out into the media.
Right.
So the get tough and use the test actually did the exact opposite from what it was purported to do when they were running the campaign to make that happen. So I do believe, what is real student? Right now, this week you have some schools in our state, most of them in New York City, consortium schools, who are doing their end-term exams. Their exams are, a student has to stand in front of a group of educators and actually go over whatever theory, hypothesis, whatever the work they were doing, challenging it. And it is one of the most difficult things I have ever seen. It is much more difficult than any Regents or standardized test. That's authentic student learning. It's a lot more work on the teacher's behalf, but they like it, and they know it's real. And that's why I hope I see our state starting to move. The first step was the commission saying, enough, it's not right, pause, but the pause will be over, you know, it was like, oh, it's 4 years, but you know, we'll be sitting here 4 years, God willing, and I'd rather be at that point or before that point saying, this is what New York State now stands for in education.
And I agree with that, and I think that's the pause button has been hit, that's great, but we have work to do during that pause, and if we're not moving in that direction, and I think we have a lot of work on all sides, us included, in letting your members know that you know, it shouldn't be test-centric, it should be authentic learning, it should be about building a future for these kids, and I think we all need to do a better job of letting your members know that, you know, they're the professionals. You know, let them teach, and we can rely on them because we have some of the best teachers around. So I thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Abenadi, Assemblyman Abenadi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to very briefly discuss one subject that has been given very short shrift today, and that's special needs education in traditional schools. And I don't see anybody on the agenda either who's going to discuss that topic. So I'd like to raise it with you, gentlemen. I know you mentioned it very briefly in your comments, but I want to put it in the context of a tax cap and minimal increase in state aid, being a parent of a child with a disability, being an assembly member who gets a lot of calls from parents of kids with disabilities. We are very concerned that the tax cap, in the light of the foundation aid formula restrictions, has become an attack on kids with disabilities. Because what we see is that the first programs that are going to be cut are the most expensive programs, and that's the programs that take care of kids with disabilities. Every one of the issues you discussed is magnified when you're dealing with a child with a disability, whether it's testing, whether it's programs, resources available, everything. And I notice in here, the governor's trying to give the school districts a way out by basically allowing them to waive the requirements that have been imposed, the minimum requirements for what must be given to a child with a disability. And we all know that the mandates become the minimum, not the maximum.
Right. In our testimony today, we're saying we're urging the legislature to have parity between the special act schools, the 4201 schools. I visited a school in your district, Assemblyman, the School for the Deaf, and what we're saying is we would love to have parity with surrounding school districts in funding. Also, on the tax cap, it's been something that we've been fearing for years, that there would be such a low CPI that we would see a 0.02 tax increase for localities. It just, if the state does not fund the schools the way they need to, they're making it impossible for a locality to raise the funds that's necessary. And I've often spoken to folks from Massachusetts where they do have a tax cap, but the state infuses tremendous amounts of money into those schools to make up for what the locality cannot raise.
Just want to reemphasize that, because when you're talking about such a small tax increase that's permissible, in some school districts where I am, the state actually contributes $1,500 to the cost of education. $1,500 per child, $1,800 per child. There's one school district in Westchester where it's $950 per child. I'm not going to begrudge those around the state who get $8,000 and $10,000. They need the money. But to say that the school district now has to follow the requirements that the state imposes on all kinds of things like audits and things that really don't go to the education of the children, yet they can't hire another teacher to deal with some kids who have special needs because they don't have the money, I think is absurd. You think about if a school district could increase its tax base by $50,000. If one child with a disability moves into that district, it costs them $60,000 to educate that child. Right. So they got to cut something else. So I appreciate your support for it, and I think it's important that we emphasize that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we skipped two senators. Senator Diane Savino.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Welcome, gentlemen and ladies. I want to touch on something that came up earlier today that Senator DeFrancisco raised with the state chair. As you know, I think it's like once a week, one of the tabloids loves to have a front page story, usually on a Sunday, about teachers in the rubber room, a term I find particularly offensive. But a couple of years ago, I know the UFT, in your contract negotiations, you negotiated a change to the teacher disciplinary process, and my understanding is it's actually improved considerably and sped up considerably. Yep. So can you clarify the tabloid journalism that claims that there is no expeditious handling of teacher disciplinary cases?
Yeah, I don't know if I can ever clarify some of the tabloids in our wonderful state. As a subject, a lot of those stories, I find them quite fascinating at times. We're very proud of the work we did in terms of speeding up the process, and the numbers are there. They'll talk for themselves. You saw that story was never picked up by anyone else because anyone who actually checked it just said, oh, it's not true. And we were very happy. The mayor de Blasio himself has said the process was working absolutely fine. We made changes. We thought it would. Fast and fair is the way to go. You don't want anything drawn out. We understand we work with children. We have to have a greater degree of pause. We get that. But fast and fair. It's not fair to the school. It's not fair to the educator. Mm-hmm. And we're very proud of the work that we have done. The tabloids, I leave that for you guys to try to fix.
Thank you. Just for full disclosure, President Mulgrew is actually one of my constituents, so I have to be nicer to him than the rest of you. But I want to touch on two things that are in your testimony, both NYSETs and the UFTs. I had the opportunity about a month ago to attend a conference where they described this new program that you guys have started in the city of New York, the Positive Learning Collaborative, which is really, if anybody hasn't seen it, you should really go and take a look at it. It's really a wonderful way of dealing with some of the most difficult schools, bringing down violence, improving outcomes. We're providing real resources. So I know you're asking for an additional $1.5 million to expand it to another up to 20 schools?
Correct.
Is that also is that outside the city of New York, both, or just New York City?
We would be happy to help train a school if outside of the city, if they want to do that. That is something this is a union initiative that we took on, just like the rebooting community learning schools 5 years ago. We got sick and tired about hearing these debates about incidents, suspensions, and we're like, well, we're the ones who keep telling everyone it's about culture, so we better put something together. We took our union money. We sent some people to Cornell for training. We asked if any schools were interested. We funded it at this point. We're funding all of it at this point. Their teachers are then trained. There's a team at the school, and it took a good 8 months before we started seeing results, and now those schools we've had for 2 years, and you try to take away their behavior learning community team, and they'll go nuts. They'll leave the building. They were in schools and we dealt with administrations who were like, if we report every single thing, they're going to tell us we're a bad school. Do you understand that no matter what we do, we can't win? We're like, yeah, we can win. We just got to take a different approach. And we understand the reporting requirements and all the rest of it, but it's a fantastic program. If anyone wants to come to see it, we would be more than happy to arrange the visit. It's phenomenal, and we would absolutely be willing to, if there's a school or a district that's interested, to bring them to New York City to take a look at what we're doing and try to help them do it also.
How do you decide which schools would be, a good fit for the
It's up to the
PLC?
school. If a school community says this is something we want to engage in, that this is, we have students who are really just coming to school, they don't understand. We inherited a school that it's usually a lot of folks who just all of a sudden just say, all right, this is not the way we want our school to run. And the majority is, people don't get, the majority of students want to go to a safe place every day. They want to go to a safe and orderly environment. And it is, as the Chancellor said, it's a small segment. And you can, by, you never know who your student cohorts are going to be. And you can have students who have all sorts of challenges, and all you need is some intervention for that. It could be that simple, that it's a small, but this program isn't just about that. It's about creating a culture of respect for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's self-selected by the school, but you need leadership, and you also need a group of teachers. But right now, what we have is a waiting list, because this is all being funded by union dues. We have a waiting list of over 20 schools in New York City who want to get in right now. We stopped adding people onto the waiting list because we figured we'd come up here and ask you guys.
Well, hopefully it'll be something we address in the budget. And finally, in both of your testimonies, you refer to the concerns you have about the home-based child care system. If you remember, it was 5 years ago, I think, 6 years ago, I sponsored the legislation to allow for home-based child care providers the opportunity to organize so that they could essentially band together for the purposes of improving and increasing the subsidies for subsidized child care. Mm-hmm. And I know that it was difficult, but I'm not sure, has there been any improvement in the subsidized child care industry? Are we seeing an increase in the vouchers? Have they been able to utilize this, organizing effort to improve their circumstances?
Well, we have federal intervention that's somewhat problematic at this point, mm-hmm. because right now there are a whole set of new requirements on top of home-based child care providers that is in terms of safety inspections, also for different protocols. They need sign-off from different agencies. Now, you have to understand that the majority of home-based daycare providers have 2 to 3 children. And it's a vital service in a lot of our communities. So the vouchers, the number of vouchers is actually going down as more unfunded mandates basically are put upon them. So, and what we hear is, well, everyone likes pre-K. We're like, yeah, but we got to get the child to 4 years of age first. And it's not just the child, it's the family that has to go to work, that cannot afford to send their child to a lot of the different centers that we have that do child care. So the daycare provider is essential in so many of our communities, yet slowly you see that this is moving in the wrong direction. So we are asking for funding in our testimony. There's a funding ask in there, but it's really about trying to help not just here at the state level, but also we need to go have a conversation with the federal government. What are you doing? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Who decided that you need 6 different agencies to sign off on someone who's watching 3 kids a day? I mean, talk about ridiculous bureaucracy. And then they'll say, oh, we're here for the welfare. Well, there's a way to license a daycare provider. And there are ways to put that in a process so it's workable for all those involved. But in the end, all we know right now are there are things there where we're looking for funding to keep and just increase the number of people who need the slots. But at the same time, we're going to need intervention at the federal level to say, because right now I have to go to you guys, I need $90 million and you're not increasing a slot. That's just to do the work that the federal government's now asking daycare providers to do so they can do the work, which is a little absurd.
So certainly I look forward to working with you guys on that. We are also looking at center-based daycare and some of the concerns and problems there with the licensing requirements. The state handles it one way and the city handles it another way, and it's a very complicated industry. So hopefully post-budget we can sit down and try and figure out how we can make it easier for our home-based child care system, because as you pointed out, it's critically important to many working families.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Senate to close.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Senator Velmonette Montgomery.
Yes. Well, I'll be very quick. I thank my colleague for asking those questions about the child care program. Appreciate it. And I have similar questions, of course, and look forward to working with you and her and on this issue. But for myself, I just want to say very, very briefly and sincerely how much I appreciate You're working with the community, the electeds, the principal, Wilshire, and the Boys and Girls High School family, if you will, to make that school really happen, to keep it from going under, to keep it becoming a massive charter school, and all the other things that could have happened. And so this is the best example of collaboration, and I want to just publicly acknowledge your participation and thank you.
Well, acknowledge your participation also.
Absolutely, we have to save that school. And I also am happy that both of you had in your testimony a specific reference to your support of the CTE, expanding it, improving, and making whatever necessary changes that are required in order to make that a substantial part of our system, as well as the early college programs. Both of you have. And I think that the reason I keep talking about those is because I see that they really do work for young people. They're very successful. I would like to see that become the new paradigm. A lot of people talk about the pipeline, but they never really do anything about it. They just talk about it. So this is really one of those kinds of tangible programs that have an outcome that we can recognize. They've been in existence long enough, and we just need to make them a part of what we do and how we do education for young people. And I am also promoting, and I believe all of the education leaders are supporting as well, let's extend that pipeline to the middle school.
Yes.
So that we now begin to really build institutionally a new paradigm about what happens to youngsters in school. And middle school, we have to do middle school. We can't just wait for high school to start talking about college. So thank you for your support, and I look forward to us working together on all of these issues, including the babies and the toddlers and everybody.
Thank you very much.
Senator.
That concludes everything, so thank you for your patience, thank you for your contributions, thank you for your
Thank you very much.
service.
Thank you.